Does anybody think that New Thought kind of has a reputation for turning our back on stuff? Sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I heard that, yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes people think that we're like ostriches, you know, that we just stick our heads in the ground and go, it's all good.
Yes.
Well, that has been true. And there's more to it than that. Because what we teach here and in Science of Mind and Unity and Divine Science is that it is done unto us as we believe. We have read ancient scriptures and other teachings, and they've been brought to life with new science. And they all suggest that what we focus upon increases, it grows. As a man or a woman thinketh in his heart or her heart, so is he or she. Whatever you think about all day long, you become. And so actually there is very, very powerful advice and practicality in turning away from what appears to be going on. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says we must turn away from conditions. But he doesn't actually stop there. It's not just blow it off and so it is. That's not the instruction. That's not the instruction. Okay, now I can pace. So of course there's more to it than that. So when we turn away from conditions, what do we do next? We are invited to go within, to turn within, to find our own relationship with the divine, our own connection with that soul, that part of us that has never been separate, that has never even thought of, never mind done anything other than that which is harmonious and shows up as unity. I'm going to just take care of that right now. Okay. So we're encouraged not to just turn away from conditions, but to go within and connect with something that may be a little bit dusty. It may be somewhat on the surface, unfamiliar to us, until we access it. And then our soul says, ah. Because there is something built into us which is indestructible, unremovable. It cannot be lost or diminished at all, ever, ever, ever. And that is our God self, our capital S self, our soul, our higher self. And so it's not the same as turning away from conditions and sitting down and saying, dear ego personality, what should we do about this? So what happens then, when we willingly commit, I was going to use the word discipline all morning, and I did a find and replace. Aren't you glad? I decided I will find the word discipline all through my plan, and I will replace it with commitment, because that's, you know, we're still a little phobic, but it's not so scary as the other one. Okay? We are devotional. Somehow we must become willing to repeatedly, religiously, regularly turn away and go within and connect with our soul, with that Christ-like, with Abba, Atman, Buddha, whatever you choose to call it, with the light, with love within each of us. So when we do that and that wonderful familiar feeling comes over us, we experience a great peace. It's as if we have finally come home and we don't ever want to leave again. Perhaps similar to when we left the formless to come into this life and agreed to take form and to be here in time and space with so many perceived limitations. Ouch, scary. And yet, we are called again, even as we tap into that Eden within us, to put action with our revelation. Because we have heard that faith without works is dead.
Amen.
We've heard in more modern terms that your talk means nothing unless you walk it too.
I say.
We've been talking about integrity for years, and now we call it congruence. It's so much more, it's softer, it's more fashionable, and it means the same thing. We can't be hypocrites, right?
I say.
We are called to put action behind that revelation. Otherwise, its fulfillment does not take place.
I say.
Okay? In this marvelous class that we keep talking about, practical mysticism, reading Carolyn Mace's Entering the Castle, and also Joel Goldsmith's handbook on practical mysticism, we recognize that we've got to be courageous, that we've got to be willing to do stuff that we don't fully understand yet, and to let go of oh so much. And we've recognized, every one of us sort of, in one way or another, put on the brakes in the beginning, like, I don't know about this. And yet, we all kept on in our own way, at our own pace. We all kept on. Because something about the whole idea that the energetic signature of this path was timely and attractive and familiar on a soul level. And so we were reminded of these principles that I'm talking about this morning, that number one, yes, we must turn away from conditions, and it doesn't stop there. We must go within, number two, and connect with something greater than our smartest mind on our best day when our biorhythms are perfect and we've eaten and slept well and so on, when all external circumstances seem to be perfect. It's still not enough for the kind of guidance and foresight, for the solutions and the answers and the direction and the power that we need. So we reach this point where we realize we cannot stay there, because if we don't put action behind the revelations that we have sought and received, then the thing isn't complete. That potential life does not exist. It doesn't have a chance. So we must take action. Now, I said here that we were going to talk about positive activism, making a difference without losing your cool. So first of all, activity might or might not become activism. I wanted to pause and explain that. We say that we must give activity to, expression to the revelation. Now, activism is a way of life. Activism is not for everyone. Activism says, I am so passionate about this thing that I'm going to make it a way of life. And perhaps even, because there are some other isms, that we like go to groups to kind of tame or get over, right? So it might even possess us. So if we are going to make a way of life of taking action, we most definitely better keep that reflecting back to spirit, turning away from conditions, as part of our formula. Otherwise, we'll be doing something else. Carolyn Mace says in one portion of Entering the Castle that if we end up in burnout and self-pity, that is not spiritual activity at all. It comes from the ego.
I see.
Ernest Holmes tells us, and then we know this because we've been in any classes about healing as practitioners or others in a mind-body connection class perhaps, that when we do our treatment work, metaphysical for prayer, when we do our prayer work, when we do our healing work, if we are tired afterwards, if we are exhausted from this, then we are not calling upon the infinite power. We are calling upon our own strength, and we will burn out. Right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So while the whole, poor me, I work so hard, I'm so dedicated, I do so much good, might feel kind of good in a weird way for a little while. Ultimately, martyrdom gets old. What? It either drives you to give up or you die from it. Right? So, it's not a really great path to take. But what if you could care about something and learn to tap in to that direction and that guidance, and then tap into something else to get it done that doesn't wear you out, so that you were able to do this thing and have it energize you? I'm guessing, because I ask myself the same question a lot, that would feel a whole lot better. Who wants to be known for being exhausted? Who wants to be known for being intense? I had friends in middle school who said, I can't play with you, you're too intense. I've had to learn how to turn my passion into positive action. And yes, there is a certain ism about it because I found my calling. And when you find your calling, your intuition, your soul's purpose won't let you go. Your ego will change its mind every other day. Another gem from Carolyn Mays. So we're saying, okay, we're here, right? We could be so many other places, like sleeping in after losing an hour last night, but we're here because we do care. We do care about something. And we want to know how to do it in such a way that we can be in peace with one another. I'm sure many of you have already heard from me or someone else that harmony is Spirit's first law. And so the first way that everything shows up in demonstration, in manifestation, in the manifest universe, in physicality and circumstances is harmony. Unity. When we see anything other than that, unity, accord, synchronicity, symphony, all those musical words, anything other than that, it is because we have lost touch with harmony, which we can only find by tapping in to the truth within our souls. Okay? So we've said that we need to turn away from conditions, we need to turn within for guidance and direction, then we need to take action or it's not complete, and then it's like, oh, and my action has to be positive, or what will happen? I'll be like a shooting star at best. I'll be another martyr on that long list. So many of us in this class said, oh, I don't think I want to be a mystic because it usually doesn't end well. Andrew Harvey and Carolyn Mays both made reference to this idea that today what we need are mystics without monasteries. Mystics without monasteries. Andrew Harvey says, you know what? In my words now. The day when we could just go check into a monastery or a convent or an ashram and just say, you know what? They're all crazy out there. We can't do that anymore. We can go to a class. Oh, let me back up. We can take an hour, and we must. We can take a weekend, and we ought to. We can take a week sometimes, a month, even a year to refresh, reconnect. And ultimately, we have to come back out of the cave, down off the mountain, because we're needed here. Do you know how many times I moved away from Florida to the mountains of Vermont and said, that's it? And then I said it again when I moved to the Pacific Northwest. That's it. And I'm in a meditation and I get palm trees. And here I am. Right? Because my ego doesn't decide where I'm supposed to be or when I'm done with that. It's something so much greater. So the other sales pitch I'm doing here is that when we are intellectually and egoically and personality guided, we've got to burn out. Because here's the other part of the formula. I do this great workshop on compassion fatigue, and here's where it comes in, right here. If we don't know how to call upon that power that gets the job done, we will wear ourselves out. But there is power. And Ernest Holmes has this wonderful phrase I've said before that pulls it all together. He says that love points the way. That's the part from going within. And law makes the way possible. Law makes the way possible. So remember, our process already leads us to, okay, I'm going to step out into the world and I'm going to discover what positive action looks like. So one of the things that I'm going to do is rely on the law to get stuff done. So then I'm going to drop a whole lot of my attitude about how I always and you never and those people and ain't it awful, right? I'm going to drop a big chunk of baggage when I learn how the law works. And I recognize that I can count on it. And I discover how to cooperate with it just like we do gravity. And that by the law, I mean the law of cause and effect, the law of attraction, any iteration of that which responds automatically to whatever is impressed upon it and creates accordingly with no effort on my part. Okay? So the effort that I do expend is to discover that and to understand it and to practice using it and demonstrate how it works for me in my life and build up my belief system in it and my trust in it, my confidence in it, and let it do more and more and more and more for me until I realize, gosh, I really should just let go of it all. Okay? So there is, and if you want to read Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, read about the law of least effort. Okay? So we say part of taking positive action is recognizing that we don't have to do it all ourselves. Here's the other part. The Sufis have this little test. Before they open their mouths, they say, or send an email, by the way. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? Okay? So also before I step out there and take an action, is what I'm about to do based in truth? If not, stop right there. Is it kind? Well, no, not really. Okay, is it useful? Well, it would make me feel better. Okay, so there's one test. Another from a group of people that I spend some time with is this. Let's see. Say what you mean what you say, and don't make it mean.
Right.
All right? Don't make it mean. By the way, you can speak with Elaine and James afterwards about NVC. We'll be talking about that a little bit later in our workshop. We have had the pleasure of meeting someone who came into our community and helped a bunch of us to practice this thing called nonviolent communication. So if you need to learn how to express what you're really feeling and more effectively get that to happen in your experience, you can take lessons. Right? You don't have to reinvent all this. You don't have to do any of it alone. What we're saying, though, is in order to take action and have it be positive, you need to be willing to rely on that power that will accomplish it for you. So come to classes with us and learn about that. And you need to learn how, I'm not using the right language even right this moment. There's an opportunity to learn how to identify what it is that we desire to express, and to convert it into something that is positive and life-affirming. Eckhart Tolle, of course, in A New Earth, says that there are only 3 responses out of all the ones that we typically make that are constructive. Those are positive, okay? They are life-affirming. So that's also, by the way, why we count to 10 sometimes before we say a word or do a thing, okay? Because we're learning. We are learning. So when someone's in your face, or someone's on Facebook, or someone's on the television, or in the newspaper, or on the radio, or standing next to you on Tuesday to cast their vote, are you going to be nice? I hope so. There is an opportunity to make a choice about how we perceive things. Dr. Gary Simmons says we get to choose what we make things mean. What we make things mean. So Ernest Holmes also says roughly that when you consider doing something, if it feels right to you and it harms no one, go for it. So once again, before we open our mouths, start typing that email, making that angry post, or saying something at a dinner party that might, make all your friends go away, whatever it is. Find out how you can express yourself. You'll have to practice. There's more willingness and more commitment, which was going to be discipline till I did the find and replace on that word this morning. Find out how to communicate in a way that does not hurt or harm or make anyone else wrong, that is not violent, but is compassionate. It can be done. Marshall Rosenberg created this because of his own experience of bullying as a young man. And then he went on, before he passed away last year, I think, or the year before, he went on to be a world-renowned peacemaker. This is AGNT season for nonviolence. And so we recognize some greats. We recognize Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, and Martin Luther King. We recognize Nelson Mandela. We recognize this living legend, the Dalai Lama, and so many more who have practiced that discipline with that passion and that soul's direction to put it into action and say, I'll do all this and I will not lift a finger to hurt another man, woman, or child. I will not allow myself to be raised to ire. I will not pick up a weapon of any kind, be it my mouth or a sword or a gun. I will sit, I will lie, I will speak, I will write, but I will not harm anyone. Are you ready? Are you just a little bit willing? Are you brave and courageous enough to consider what that might look like for you? We all know what we look like when we're angry. And we all know what it's like to be around someone who's passionate and they don't pull it off so well. You can't wait to get out of the room. The last thing that you're going to do is agree with them or vote the way they think you should or cooperate with them or go in that direction. So we know that that's futile. So if you care deeply about what is going on outside of you right now, know how powerful it is, despite the looks you may or may not get, if anybody is really spending that much time thinking about you. How powerful it is to acknowledge what's going on out there. Turn away from conditions. Go into that secret place that you have prepared for yourself to do this work daily. Commune with your soul and ask, what is mine to do? And you might get some crazy marching orders. And you might think, well, I don't know how to do that. Or I don't have time, or I don't have the money, or who will help? Don't worry about that. Because you can go back in and pray on that too. Ask, it is given, be open to receive, and take action. And remember this, love points the way, and law makes the way possible. So it does not have to be hard. So I invite you, as you go out from here, to upgrade your philosophy about being present in the world at this time. And when you have a longing to go recharge, do it. We just bought a new mattress yesterday, and part of its name is Recharge. Rest, absolutely. Be sure that you take very good care of this body temple. And do not forget that your soul is there to nourish you and to guide you. And that the law of life itself is there to get the job done. Namaste.